This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news, intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversation. 96.9 FM. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Good yawning this morning, Bahamas. Good morning. It is Monday, the 17th of May, 2021, and that must mean you're on the clock with Erin Greene. On the clock, we engage organizations, institutions, social and cultural leaders, and ordinary people to better understand the impact of public policy, private sector development, and emerging social and consumer trends. On the clock, we have conversations that help us understand and navigate a rapidly changing Bahamas. Good morning, Bahamas. You tuned into 96.9 FM. That's Guardian Talk Radio. I hope you are having a beautiful morning. Today's show is brought to you by the Department of Inland Revenue. And today's smiles are brought to you by a weekend full of eating local fruit. Listen, I don't know what y'all doing with your time, with your money, with your life, but I out here balling. I live in a baller's life, eating local fruit where I could find it. And did I have a yummy weekend? This weekend, I had two types of local cherry. I had locally grown papaya. I had two different type of mango. I had some very, very, very extremely sour tamarind. But it's okay that they're sour because that means they're very, very good for me and my liver. And then I had dilly. Oh, I had some dilly off my tree. The raccoon didn't save the dilly for me, you know. I hear it drop in the dark and I jump out my bed and go on and run for that dilly. That's how I get to eat it. And mulberry. On top of all of that, I had mulberry, right? I know, I ain't finished yet. And passion fruit. I had some passion fruit lemonade this weekend, right? And all of these things, all of these fruit available locally, right? Right here. Everybody balling, going out to fancy restaurant and putting on coat, suit, and tie, right? I wish I had a pizza croaker sock so I could turn into one shade and pretend like I know what Ronnie Butler was talking about in that song, Burma Road. Very young for that, right? But through the fruit, right? Through the food, through the cultural experiences, we could share those experiences, those principles, right? Those collective memories with each other, and most importantly, with our children and future generations, right? That's why it don't matter if you personally like Ganep or not. You got to acknowledge the value of the Ganep to the collective, right? To people other than you. You got to value the fact that indigenous peoples in these islands would roast the Ganep seed for a starch or a carbohydrate proponent, right, in their diet. You got to remember that. You got to remember that Ganep is good for, I think, conditioning the pancreas, I think, but it's also good for gut health, and it's good for dehydration and regulating temperature, right? And you got to remember when you was a child, you used to spend all day out in the bush, in the road, not in the house, not worried about food, because you was eating local fruit, right? You see, when you realize the power and the value in that memory, that you and your siblings could spend all day outside, not troubling your mother or your mother's fridge or her kitchen for food, just eating local native fruit. When you understand the value and the power that, you understand why you need to be able to pass that experience on to your children. Or when I say your children, you didn't have to born them. The children around you, the children that are close to you, right? Because in that memory, the value of that local fruit, we see the nutrient, the nutritious value, how local produce powered a people, right? And then you can begin to look at what we call the food security crisis a bit differently. Then we could begin to look at this whole mammoth task that the food distribution network has. We could look about it differently because we can now identify other valuable resources in our communities. And then when you realize how valuable the tamarind or the ganep is, right, then you're going to understand why you need to pay the young men, young women in the communities where you're going to find these fruit to pick them for you and process them for you. Because you understand the nutrient value, you understand the cultural value, and you understand the economic value of these things. It ain't just jokes, right? I could be honest with you, I have a well-planned out subversive agenda when I sit here cracking joke about fruit. First of all, I want to eat fruit forever. I want you all to call me the crazy fruit lady. I want you all to say, that's that woman who all in her yard is fruit. And you know, sometimes she's camp out in her yard. And then the other person say, why? So y'all don't teeth the fruit, eh? And then the person, no, man, she just loved the fruit that much. She ain't got no husband, she ain't got no wife, she's sleeping in the yard with her fruit. That's what I want you all to think of me of. That's because that's how much I love fruit. And I intend on eating fruit until I die, local fruit. I want every single summer to have the option to eat 10 or 12 different type of mango in my own country. Right? I have an agenda. I want this fruit thing to last forever. In fact, you know how I can become a millionaire or billionaire? I can build me a fruit forest. Right? I construct a fruit forest. And all them cruise ship, all them fancy hotel and thing, they gonna be begging me to let their guests into my fruit forest so they could walk around and forage for local fruit, and it could be magical. I even could grow fruit in my fruit forest that can't grow here, right? I got a subversive plan. It's a deep, deep political agenda to flood the Bahamas with fruit, local fruit, so that we could preserve everything that is beautiful about this place. Now, on another note, this message was inspired by the great but never late Sir Charles Carter. I want to say rest in peace, Sir Charles, my good cousin, who always encouraged me, like Mr. Burnside, to be who I is and not who I ain't, right? Always encouraged me to see the value in me, even as a young queer girl, upsetting everybody everywhere she went. Charles Carter is one of those Bahamian men that saw the value in people, and in young people in particular, and let them know that they are valid, they are seen, they're visible, and they're protected by a host of ancestors living and past, right? This is the greatness of Bahamians, the path that they create for other Bahamians, for other young people. Anyway, I don't know my cousin well enough to load up today with tributes to Charles Carter. I know the people closest to him will be doing that. And hopefully this week, some of my guests will help me in sharing memories that we all should know about the great but never late Sir Charles Carter. He was a great man. He's a fun man. He's a helpful man. He's an entertaining and inspiring man. He is, and will always be, what we call Bahamian man. And we love him forever. Arlington, let's go to this call quickly and then we're going to go to a break. Good morning, caller. You're on the clock.
Good morning, Miss Greene. How you doing today?
I'm good, thank you, Sparky. How you do?
I hope you and your family had a wonderful and a safe weekend.
I did. They mad at me because I ain't let them eat no mango, but I had a great weekend. How you doing?
Well, I watching my mangoes. Like I told you, it took me a while for this mango to start bearing again because the hurricane had split the tree in half.
Mm-hmm.
But I got about 3 other mango trees, but they are young ones coming up for the first time.
Right.
I purchased those from Rocky Farm, so it usually takes about 2 to 3 years before they get fruit.
Yeah.
Those are the ones where they either grafted or they moss trees.
Right.
When you go from the seed, it takes long.
Not just that, when you go from the seed, you may not reproduce the same fruit.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of people down there who know how to moss trees.
Mm-hmm.
And you ask them to come moss trees. I've been trying to do the mossing, but it don't seem to work. The limb just dies. From the moss spot forward, it just goes dead.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't have that finger on the moss. I got the gold tub and I put the seeds in the ground.
That's awesome.
I don't have the green tub and I got the gold one. But I've been watching this mango tree was hanging close to the fence, so every time I see one start turning a little yellow,
pick it off.
I say if it turns yellow, it can turn red and get ripe, but it get ripe inside the kitchen. If it's right there, it's gone.
But see, look here, and look at the impact of agricultural theft on our collective experiences.
But I've been listening around here, and when we talk about agriculture and land and feeding myself and things like that, and how our leaders over the period of years have just stagnated us and not allowed us. But most of us can't afford to purchase a piece of land to build on, a home to live in, much less to farm on. Mm-hmm. They won't give you a little government spot with 50 by 100 and the house taking up more than half of that. Give you 8 feet to 9 feet on each side of a little backyard. And most people won't put down crab glass and bougainvillea. I try to put down food. But, when we ask for all these acreages of land, what they have around here, and these politicians called prime ministers, they are in charge of the land all the time. They never give out the land to us. But when a foreigner comes in here, they'll give them 5,000, 6,000 acres of land to build a hotel on, or a little doggone marina on, or something. But the Bahamian people would own the land. What they say is our land. They wouldn't give it to us. I just don't understand that. But they always promise us that they could give out land. And then we find out they only give out land to their cronies, friends, families, and lovers. And when we talk about Sir Charles, he's a good buddy of mine. I grew up, I was born in Chippenham, grew up in the West Street area. Audley Street, right, running right into Augusta Street.
You used to live up there?
Yeah, man. I moved I was born in Chippenham, then in 1951, then I moved into Audley Street. That's right to the bottom of West Street Hill.
Okay. I was thinking of a different Audley Street.
No, Audley Street is right there. There's Audley Street right to the bottom of West Street Hill. Mother Pratt them used to live up on the top of the hill by the milk stand.
Yeah.
Mr. Lockett them had one gas station down on the bottom place by his house, and then he moved on the top of the hill. Right next door to us was Valentine Grimes.
Okay.
That's where I moved, and then from there I moved into the valley. But when we talk about Sir Charles,
Carter,
I knew him from the family when my bigger brother were inset. I knew him from coming up by one of my old man's bar to play Worry, African game called Worry.
A Worry, African chess.
A Worry, they used to be up there playing that, and dominoes and stuff. But talking about Sir Charles and the great people, it seems as if when we mention great people, they seem to only mention people who were involved in somewhere around either the religious sector
or politics.
Or
civil service.
But let me tell you something, and I've said this for years. My mother, Gwendolyn Mercedes Joy, Men Spin the Fountain,
All right.
was the woman that started the Valley Boys. She worked for Malcolm gas station. My brother and Gus Cooper, them grew up together. Gus Cooper asked my brother to ask. They used to call my mother Ann Gwenny. Asked Ann Gwenny if she could get some money from this person. A.B. Malcolm, so Valley Boys wanted to start their own group because Gus wanted to split away and make his own group. My mother gave them, from Mr. Malcolm, a box of cowbells, a box of whistles, and 16 pounds to start the Valley Boys in 1958 in 10th Street in Gus Cooper Old Man Garage. To date, my mother has never been honored by the Valley Boys, neither the Jokerloo Committee. All kinds of funny people go down Bay Street, get their little aqua jacket and this and that and the next.
Okay,
and their black suit and everything. And Gwendolyn Mercedes Joy Fountain has never been honored.
Listen, Sparky, I want to say, I got to go. Don't forget the men's in there, because I hear the men's the first time. Thank you for sharing that. Arlington, we're going to go to this break now. Thank you for sharing that, Sparky. Also, I attempt to make a space to honor people in non-traditional spaces. That's why I just let you talk on my show, Sparky, even though you run out 5 minutes. Look at what you tell us. Sparky, Mummy, start the Valley Boys. And they had the audacity to call it the Valley Boys. But see, that's how nice woman is. We love our Bahamian men. We do honor regular and ordinary Bahamian, Sparky. That's why I keep letting you tell us these stories. And in honor of Charles Carter, I want to thank you for telling us that story about your mother and how she started the Valley Boys. Dear listening audience, thank you, and thank you for your patience. I think it was worth it. We're going to go to a break right now, and when we come back, we are talking the new state of emergency and COVID orders with local lawyer Mr. Alex Morley. Stay tuned to 96.9 FM. We will be right back.
Preparing for a hurricane can make all the difference in safeguarding the lives of family, friends, and neighbors. By knowing what action you should take, you can reduce the effects of a hurricane disaster. Get all the facts of the potential of having insurance, impact-resistant windows, home emergency power, essential supplies, and a lot more before the storm. After the storm, where to purchase building or cleaning supplies, waste disposal, medical care, and more. The Nassau Guardian's Hurricane Guide will help you make sure everyone knows what to do in the event a hurricane approaches. Take advantage of this double insertion opportunity, plus 15 commercials on Star 106 hits. Contact us today at 302-2300. That's 302-2300, or your account executive. Will you be prepared?
Have an outstanding real property tax bill? Take advantage of our Real Property Tax Forgiveness Program. Bring your account to zero and receive a 50% discount on your outstanding tax and surcharge past 180 days. Or get a payment plan. Make a 25% deposit on your outstanding tax, receive a 100% waiver on the surcharge, and pay the difference within 36 months, interest-free. Contact the Department of Inland Revenue at 225-5778 or email us at rptforgive@bahamas.gov.bs. Offer ends May 31st.
This is Guardian Radio, 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
I've lived a life that's full. I've traveled each and every highway, and more, much more than this, I did it my way. Regrets, I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. I did what I had to do. I saw it through.
Good morning, Bahamas, and welcome back to On the Clock with Erin Greene. Today is Monday, the 17th of May, 2021. I got an ad for you. Save on your real property tax. Bahamian property owners can now take advantage of waivers on their real property tax in one of two ways. 1, bring your account to zero. 2, get a payment plan. Foreigners can receive a 100% waiver on surcharge. This offer ends May 31st, 2021. And for further information, email rptforgive@bahamas.gov.bs or call 242-225-5778. Toll free. This message is brought to you by the Department of Inland Revenue. Good morning, Bahamas, and good morning to my guest, Mr. Alex Morley. How are you, sir?
Morning. How you doing? Yuhuru, Miss Greene, and Yuhuru to all of you, your listeners out there. Yuhuru means freedom. Good morning.
Good morning. So, over the weekend, we had the publication or the gazetting of the extension or the orders to extend the state of emergency, right? And on Sunday night, we had the publication of what I think is another set of orders, right? I am not a lawyer. The vast majority of us are not lawyers, even though we do have a large percentage of lawyers in the country. But even some lawyers may require some help or assistance understanding the state of emergency, the emergency powers or the COVID protocols, and what they mean to us, right? So I beg you to come in the studio with me today to help me understand what this thing is we're talking about. So on Friday, I saw the publication of a document, of two documents, right? And then a third document that I presumed were the Governor General's proclamation extending or renewing or creating a new state of emergency, right? And then on Sunday, I got this document, both in front of you, that has a bunch of provisions, right? Like COVID protocols. Tell me, what's the difference between the document that came out on Friday, that's been gazetted, and the document that came out on Sunday?
The two documents I have in front of me are the order and the regulations.
Okay.
What I would generally say is, first there's the legislation that is passed, the primary legislation, the statute, the act, and then normally you would have, sometimes you would have a subsidiary legislation, a piece of legislation that comes along with that first legislation that kind of clarifies that initial act or the initial law, that it may have like the tests, the legal formulas, or it may be like a glossary to define the regulations, maybe like have definitions in it to define what may be in the primary legislation. So to me, that's the initial distinction that I see, that I would say. A regulation would be the subsidiary legislation that comes afterwards that clarifies the primary legislation. That's how I see it. Right. Yeah.
Cool. So when I was looking at the order, right? So you explained it. You used the words. One is the order and one is the regulations. Right? So one defines what it is we're doing, and then the other one tells us what you can do, right?
Right. That's how I would, kind of clarifies and breaks down. I would say the regulations would be the one what kind of gives the directions and the rules and the definitions and the tests one must follow to carrying out the primary legislation.
All right. So in looking at that, right, I was I want to say very concerned, but it's not in the way that people think, right? I wanted to learn more about what these things meant in particular, right? So when I look in the document that was published on the 14th, I see some regulations in the section that says arrangement of regulations, right? That speaks to restriction of access to any area. That's number 18.
18?
Take a look at that for me.
Number 18.
That concerns me, right? I want to know why that provision. I want to know why that provision is in there.
Is it you speaking about curfew, where it says curfew?
Well,
it's
no.
18.
Well, go on, read it. Yeah.
It says 18 says the competent authority may. That's the one you're speaking about.
I think so. I can check.
The competent authority may, by order, or 19. Sorry,
sorry.
19. Restriction of access to any area. The competent authority may, by order, prohibit a person from residing or entering any area specified in the order if such person is suspected of acting or having acted or of being about to act in a manner prejudicial to the public health, that's A, the supply or distribution of any necessity of life or the preservation of the peace. And the competent authority is satisfied that it is desirable that such person should be prohibited from residing in or entering any particular area. The competent authority may, by order, prohibit him from residing or entering any such area or areas as may be specified in the order.
Right. So here's what my thing is, right? If you already have provisions to restrict my movement, right? Like I got to stay at home. Lockdown order, right? Why do you need an order to restrict me from a particular area? And if you have the power to detain me or cause me to go into isolation, right? Like in my home or in a facility designated by the state, right? Why wouldn't you use that as opposed to creating a provision to restrict me from entering an area? Like, why not use the provisions you have that restrict me from leaving an area? Why do you create restrictions that prevent me from entering an area, right? That was my first query.
Right.
And then the second query is, it also says where you reside, right? So it gives me the impression that the state can prevent you from returning home.
Right. I mean, to me is somewhat. I gotta admit, it's somewhat confusing to me too. You know, I am not a legal theorist who draws up legislation. That is not my area of law. But I would think that when it's drawing up legislation, it is to be applied for a particular real circumstance. You know.
Right.
And which you had just said, it would seem that those persons would have already been covered. That legislation has already passed that would cover persons who are somewhat ill, you know,
Right.
and need to be measures need to be taken.
Right.
It seems that we already have that. So what would this be? Who would this be trying to isolate? You see. So to me, it comes across confusing to me. Just reading it now, it seems like they're expanding their right to detain people, you see? So, I mean, that's how it reads to me. Just reading it now, you know, after a while, I may, see it in another way, but that's
Right.
how it reads to me right now.
So let's take a pause for a second, right? I want to sort of to highlight this thing that we're looking at right now, right? On the weekend, on Friday, we got a proclamation, and I'm a layman telling you what I think it is, right? We got a proclamation from the Governor General indicating that a new state of emergency has been created, right? And with that came a subsection where the Senate was required, the Governor General had to make a proclamation to call the Senate to meet, right? So that they could follow the proper protocol for the establishment of a state of emergency.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So those three documents came out.
Right.
The declaration of a state of emergency, the proclamation calling the Senate to meet so they could follow the protocol on that properly, and then the regulations, right? Arrangement of regulations. Right. And then on Sunday, another 2 documents came out. I only brought one of the 2 that was published, right? Here I am, a layman, sitting down, looking at all of these documents and trying to figure out what do they mean. And what do they mean to me?
And I know they mean it.
Right? And so I called my boy, a lawyer, and I say to him, boss man, I begging you to come on the show and help me explain the thing, right? And I say, I know it's very short notice. And you say, yeah, man, Erin, you know it's short notice, right? I say, yeah, but let's try a thing.
Right.
And how difficult it is to just sit down and look at this and be certain that you know what you're reading.
Right.
Like the words make sense. If people sit down, and I know every single word on that piece of paper. But because I'm not a trained lawyer, I may not necessarily understand what those words mean together. And B, because I'm not a draftsman, right? So I may even be a lawyer, but because I'm not a draftsman, I can't be certain about the interpretation of the words. But furthermore, because I wasn't on the team of draftsmen that drew up these provisions, I can't speak to their intent. I don't know what it is they were intending to do. So it's even more difficult for me to be certain I understand what it is I'm reading. If I, a citizen who understands I need to participate in this process of government or governance, gets out there, gets the documents, I still need more than just that.
I'm going to answer every legal question that you put to me, so I ain't trying to take you off of your course.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of work that's going on with drafting legislation and, a lot of time and energy going into these things. But what amazes me, right, and I really ain't trying to be funny, right, but what amazes me is that, like, we don't have 5 or 10, like, Africans nowhere in a room trying to come up with like a medicine, like literally, like this whole country sitting on waiting on CNN and Fox News to tell us what to do. Like our government, like I really trying to understand what's going on right now. You know what I mean? And that's what really this whole pandemic exposes. You know, our powerlessness. You know what I mean? The fact that we aren't all. See, you were talking about local food at the beginning. You know, and the fact that we aren't consuming enough local food. But the question is self-determination. You see, and I'm not trying to be utopian or in a dream-like kind of way. But I'm thinking about all of the people, we have 350,000 people in the Bahamas, St. Lucia, Jamaica, Trinidad, straight throughout the Caribbean. We got UE, we got UB over here, we got Africa, the University of Ghana, and the universities in Southern Africa, like, all of this power that we have to our ability, and like nobody's sitting in a room, like 10 Africans in the room somewhere trying to come up with a medicine to help African people. Like all of us waiting on these white people to come up with a medicine. Like that can't work. And that can't work. That is a crazy world to be in, you see?
And further to that, to the people who don't trust Western medicine and science, right? And insist on not engaging their protocols for the pandemic and the disease, why aren't those people gathering their resources and constructing a strategy and a plan? Like you say, why aren't they identifying these resources that you have already identified? Because they're easily identifiable, right? It's not just enough to say, I ain't taking it. I don't want to do that. I ain't on your run. You still have a responsibility to yourself and to those that you deem to be a part of your collective or agree with you to construct a strategy or a path and to use the tools available to you to do. Sitting back and complaining, right? And so that's why...
No, I feel you.
Right.
I feel you. But there is general the frustration out there. I think it is legitimate. And I think some people would say, okay, we've been taking Panadol all our life, so why you taking an issue with this? But, you know, there's no great time for self-determination. We could wake up tomorrow and say, man, listen, it's self-determination time. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And the thing about pandemics or hurricanes or whatever, it exposes who in power, who in control. You see, when everybody back against the wall, then you're exposed like, boy, this really how the country is work? This who in control of the country? Because everybody back against the wall, you see? And every disaster that happens, man, all of the, who controls how things is move around, who controls the food, all of that becomes more exposed during these kind of events, you see. So the question is self-determination, collective. Yeah, but yeah, I agree.
No, and like I agreeing with you. I want you to know I'm not disagreeing with you. I just saying to my people out there, it's the same thing they told us when we were in high school, Alex, right? You don't have to believe in this system, but you can't create a vacuum within yourself. If you're going to rebel against something, understand that you're going to automatically turn. And what are you going to turn to? Right? And that's where I started developing this idea of you have to figure out how to govern yourself. Right? That even in rejecting capitalism and imperialism and rejecting the traditional Christian spaces that I was forced to be in as a young person, that you can't just turn to the wilderness. You have to have a strategy, a plan, an ethos, a philosophy, or a principle to guide your life, right? And then, other than that, then we find a real anarchy.
And I agree with you. And, I would say, I put a lot of this, what's going on with the independent movement. That's what I would say in this country. I put a lot of that burden on myself in terms of not doing the job and building a revolutionary organization in this country that kind of guides that leadership, because I'm a part of the African People's Socialist Party. During this pandemic, the African People's Socialist Party was was the leading organization. You see, our leaders are talking about telemedicine, doing medicine over the phone and that kind of communications. The African People's Socialist Party, under the leadership of Dr. Aisha Fields from the ABDEP, which is a organization in the African People's Socialist Party, she had created a committee where we were trying to organize, and I was a part of that process, where she was trying to bring working regular people in contact with all of the doctors who are around the world, African doctors, you know what I'm saying, who would be able to kind of give them that assistance that they may need. But being a part of that process, I was the legal mind in that process, so I was thinking along the line of all the risk involved and the things we would need to do to protect ourselves and stuff like that. But the problem has to be tackled, you see, and the African People's Socialist Party was trying to tackle that problem of how do we, in these times of need, how do we bring all our access to information, access to each other,
How do we use that? Yeah.
How do we use that? And the African People's Socialist Party was about that way before the WHO or the UN or whoever at this point talking about it. We were pushing that. So, a lot of this what's happening in this country right now, again, I put that it's all leadership, leadership, showing the young people out there, not mocking them because they only following. If you see young people out there doing something, they doing something because the leaders doing it.
Yeah.
The leaders live on Facebook. You see what I'm saying? So that's why they are here like that. You see what I'm saying? The leaders live on Facebook. So if we want a revolutionary politics...
And not just that, let me tell you what it is. The leaders show how important networking is. It's not what you know. It's who you know.
It's who you know.
Right? But young people are restricted from networking in the same way that the older people and the leaders are. And they don't have the same resources to network. So young people use the tools that they have to do the same thing.
If they see how you do it, yeah, right, exactly. Right. I feel you.
So there's look at these young people on Facebook wasting time. Right. No, they're doing what you say is important to do, but you don't create a space for them to do, so they figuring out how to do it on their own. Right. The same thing though.
I feel you. I feel you. And we need to use this new technology that's available to us and young people and all that energy that they have. And this problem. This African people, man, I gave a speech a couple of weeks ago where I was trying to speak about the history of African people, and one of the places that I was speaking about was Timbuktu, and one of the fields of Timbuktu that people traveled there for was surgery. They went there for law, surgery, and philosophy. African people have been here for thousands of years. We didn't come on this side of the world just to serve white people, man.
And pick cotton. Yeah.
No, that's not our purpose, man. You know what I'm saying? This problem, if the only way we could solve this problem and any other problem that we face is understanding who we are and connecting to that Africa in us, that African nation, building that, reaching out to all of those resources and building that.
And in reaching out to those resources is understanding that you already know how to do the things you seeking to do now.
Oh yeah, self-determination, man, for sure.
But look here, I got a caller and I got some text here. Caller, you are on the clock. Oh, caller, how you could wait until I say you on the clock to go, caller? I admit that's like the mango you've been watching all day, and then the next morning the raccoon teeth it. Caller, you on the clock. Good morning, caller. You're on the clock.
A godly day to this dark in the west, along with you and your guest.
Good morning, Bremen.
What I want to say, right?
Yeah.
It's not, the problem is our leaders afraid to show the people how to coexist. We don't have a problem. All we got to do is coexist.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And we would get things happen. And I want the brother to know, now, in the early 30s, the League of Nations chop up about Africa in pieces and all of the 4 nations take apart.
Mm-hmm.
And now they are called the international, oh Lord. Anyhow, it was the League of United Nations now it's called. You see my point?
Yeah.
So all we got to do, try, put ourselves in the position to coexist, and we will survive.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're right.
For sure. No, I totally agree, building and I know that's what the African People's Socialist Party is about, and that's the organization that I am a part of. Building a new society where we put people is the first thing,
Mm-hmm.
people.
And so, right?
Human beings.
And so that's a part of what inspired me to talk about this legislation today, right? The legislation don't mean nothing if the people don't understand it. Who are you creating it for but the people? You implement it, you don't give the people enough time to digest it and understand it, but you're going to start locking up people right away. The legislation don't mean nothing. Who is it for? Who does it serve? Right? And I say before I start beating up entirely on the legal community, I can reach out to the lawyers that I know to construct a conversation, right? So I could get a better sense of what the legislation means. So other Bahamians could get a better sense of what the legislation means, because these are the very words that are going to drive their lives. Look at the last one. Look at number 29 on the one on the left, the general penalty, right? There's like a penalty in there of not exceeding $10,000, right?
29, where no other penalty is provided, any person who contravenes the provisions of any of these regulations or any order made or notice given thereunder or incites or attempts to incite any other person to contravene any of these regulations or any other order or any order made or notice given thereunder commits an offense and is liable upon summary conviction to a fine not exceeding $10,000 or to a term of imprisonment for a term not exceeding 18 months or to both.
Look here, it say if you looking at the thing and you don't see a penalty attached to it, trust the penalty is $10,000 or 18 months in jail. You gotta help people understand what these documents mean, what's required of them. And then there's some other things in there, like the state has the right to seize, to acquire your business. If you have a boat or a plane and thing, and I looking at my little mango tree, I saying, boy, mango tree, me and you was a business, but not no more. I can't let the government come take you from me.
Can I say something about these laws? And this isn't a criticism of the legal system per se, but more I think more underdevelopment and being dominated by just foreign powers, But the during this period, persons are being brought before the court for not having proper documents, right?
Yeah.
False documents, right? The charge is being normally possession of the forged document and uttering the forged document, right?
Right.
Most of those matters are some of the persons, defendants, see those matters as they are somewhat straightforward matters. You know what I'm saying? Because either you did it or either it's false or it isn't. You know.
Yeah.
And persons know that. Let's say somebody was to plead not guilty, right? Somebody was to plead not guilty. The matter would be set down for trial, right? The institution that made that document, they would send their employee, and their employee would take the stand and say, no, that's not our document. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
My problem would, because I dealt with a couple of those matters during this period, my problem was that it seemed to be, I don't know, the visitors who are coming into our country and who are providing these medical documents, how it is that we are able, how is it, I'm sure I'm not the only person who's raised this issue, man.
Yeah.
It's just the unequal application of the law.
Yeah.
How would we be able to verify the
Validity of
the documents that the visitors would be carrying? There are 50 states in the U.S. with thousands
of different
medical
taps and different
professionals
protocols,
and different
yeah.
places and all of that. You see what I'm saying? The documents that I dealt with before were in my matter, there's only like a couple of institutions that are doing that. You see?
Yeah.
So
it was easily
it
verifiable.
was easy verifiable. You see
Yeah.
what I'm saying? We're dealing with 350,000 people here. There's only a couple of institutions that are doing that. You see what I'm saying?
Let me get to a couple of callers because I can have to have you back on.
It's an unjust law.
Oh yeah.
It's an unjust law for real.
All right, caller, you're on the clock.
Good morning, Ms. Greene.
Good morning.
I'm sure you have such a short time, but there's a paradigm shift in the protein transport system from the endoplasmic reticulum, which means, and this is a new paradigm in protein cell biology. So it shows you that these things are not constantly lost. And I just wanted to, I love the young man, I like what he's saying, all right? And so, not despite, the thing is, I just want to get this in. See, the Emergency Powers Act was implemented geopolitically because they knew they had to implement the emergency authorization use. So they work in tandem with one another. The emergency power authorization for the vaccines could not be implemented without emergency powers. So hence you see the narrative in the newspaper, the people are taking the vaccine slow enough. So we're being forced into this paradigm when this COVID-19 vaccine have the worst record ever. This information was revealed by Mr. Hall at the Senate, the Senate State of Affairs Committee on television. All right, we are lost. God help us all. We are being hijacked by pseudoscience and no general consensus, and they are passing laws without having a consensus, and they are censoring the internet from the truth, backed by big tech and Silicon Valley. Have a good day.
Thank you, number 52. Thank you very much. Well, certainly there is not enough or sufficient space for public discourse, for public education, and for preparing citizens to make informed decisions about their own bodies, their own futures, and our collective futures. No matter how ignorant you think a person is, as a government, you still have an obligation to provide or create or facilitate an environment where they can access the information necessary to make informed decisions. As an individual person, no matter how stupid or ignorant you think a person is, you do not have the right to prevent them from making decisions that impact their bodies, their future, and our collective future. This is unfair. It is unjust. It is unchristian. It is indecent. And it is inhumane. These are the travesties of adulthood, of maturity, of life on this planet. You can't just do whatever you want to do. You actually do have to consider the impact of your actions and behavior on others. Also, you must understand that no matter the scope of your power, you have to be able to limit it and your actions so as not to adversely or negatively impact or affect others. Right? It's a rough time we're in, people. And just as rough as handling, is the pandemic is this journey that we have to maintain our humanity, to maintain our decency, to ensure that we engage each other with more than just civility, with the understanding that each and every one of us has inherent dignity and inherent divinity, whether they follow your God or not. Right? This is what is being called of us in this time. This is the test on humanity. How will we move forward? How will we regard each other? How will we treat each other in the roughest of times? Stop calling people stupid because they don't agree with you. And share your mangoes, because everybody need a mango right about now. Things are getting rough. Things are getting hot. Help your brother, man. Help them out. Share something. Anyway, Mr. Alex Morley, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
I hope you know, if the court allows, I will be bringing you back on my show so we could delve into these emergency orders and help the average Bahamian get a sense of why, no matter how frustrated they are, they have to pay attention to these orders. They have to get a sense of what they mean, and they have to figure out how they're going to navigate the rest of their lives, understanding the law.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Bahamas, stay tuned to 96.9 FM, Guardian Talk Radio, because you know Levon Miller and Unleashed is up next. Have a great day, Bahamas.